this session is to look at home. What are we doing? How are we doing? If it is difficult for us as entrepreneurs, as individuals, as small organizations to talk about failures, think of the government. I mean, let's all imagine ourselves across consultations in any government office, small or big, any system. That is one part. The second part is, think of going and meeting an MLA, an MP, anybody in politics, any party member. So these days, if there is a state election, you get a phone call from contesting candidates asking you to vote. They don't leave you till you pick up the phone. It comes twice or thrice. But have you ever done that to any member of parliament, any elected councillor, anybody? Or anybody, you also have numbers of important officials, government officials. If you go to government sites, you get them. But how many of us have picked up a phone and called them? Very, very rarely. As far as I can say for myself, I sometimes hear some people saying, ki, you use this phone, make it jawab jarur aayega. I am not aware. So today we have on our panel very distinguished panel members who are going to narrate experiences on difficult situations that they encounter and how do they navigate it. Because just as we don't see them, they also don't have an opportunity to see us. Because their constraints are invisible to us, but they are equally visible to them. So I welcome you all. Sir, please have a seat. As I introduce, Shai, please come. We'll start with the politician among the group. That is Shri Darshan Puttanaya. Yeah? He's an Indian politician from Karnataka, currently serving as the member of Karnataka Legislative Assembly from Melukote, constituency since May 2023. He represents the Sarvodaya Karnataka party. Welcome, sir, please. I now invite Shri S.M. Vijayanand. He is the former Chief Secretary, Government of Kerala, a great friend of my organization, Swiss Embassy. Welcome, sir. He's a 1981 batch. And we in our office used to know what is called as Khila, a Panchayat Raj institution which he championed. And he has anchored Kerala People's Planning Initiative for 15 years. I now invite Suryakumar sir, P.V.S. Suryakumar. We were joking how long are the Andhra names that they can't fit into the digital space given to writing names. He retired as the MD NABARD, the biggest agricultural bank that we know. Most of us would have not directly dealt with NABARD, but would know of NABARD. I now invite Shri S. Kiran Kumar, Chairman, Physical Research Laboratory Management Council and member of Space Commission, Government of India. Welcome, sir. You all have seen the flights ISRO has made. And he will have many stories to tell behind what happens in each one of them. He was with PRL throughout your career, sir, right?
ISRO.
Yeah, ISRO. Sorry, not PRL. ISRO. So welcome. We now have Shri Gunanka. I left you last because you are currently serving as the Joint Secretary of Government of Meghalaya. So every word that you say would be very, very important, please. He's from Karnataka. We can conduct the panel half in Kannada. Very nice. So we have a panel of 5 members. I now have the privilege of introducing Sri Sampath Kumar, who is Principal Secretary and Development Commissioner, Health and Family Welfare Department, Government of Meghalaya. But he has a different role. He will be talking to us after this session at the fireside chat, but he will also address this group for about 5 minutes. So, welcome, sir. Even if you get less time, you will still have 5 minutes to address this gathering. So, I am going to, the way we organize this session is I would invite each panelist for 10 minutes to share their stories for about 10 minutes. After 8 minutes, we will have one of the organizers showing them that they have 2 more minutes left. And she will come, I think. Somebody, Varsha, come. Come, Varsha, please have a seat here, because they all would want to see their 2 minutes left, right? And after I finish with the panelists, we will invite Mr. Sampath Kumar to say a few words, and I'll open it up for interactions. So we would have about, till what time, Varsha?
About 5:15.
5:15. So about 5:15. Okay, we'll see how it goes. So I would like to start with Shri Gunanka. Yes. Everyone wants to listen to you first.
You gave me a shock. I thought I will be the last one. So
No, you are the one who has to carry forward the torch, you see.
I thought I have enough time, at least 1 hour, to think through while others are discussing.
No such luck.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm like a little scared also to share that as with such a seniors who has already like excelled in their career. I'm at least in my bureaucracy, I'm new entrant, I would say. Even though I completed my engineering 15 years back, I was in corporate for almost 7-8 years before I transitioned into bureaucracy. So for bureaucracy, I'm young, I would say. I will not go into the theoretical or modular space. I will restrict only to my own experience where I failed or where I think I'm not able to go as I wanted. So it's only my personal experience. That's maybe as a bureaucrat, that star mark I have to put. Yeah, I'm like many other civil servant aspirants. I also joined bureaucracy for the reason I hated bureaucracy. I still hate, you can say. Maybe like many others who are sitting here, that experience with bureaucracy is never great. It's still used to for me. I mean, outside my state, if I have that experience, it's still not so great. I keep sharing this with sir also. But initial days, why I started hating, like many of you, it's small things, that irritations of going and getting a driving license is never an easy task. I failed 4 times before I finally got a driving license. So the simple handling with traffic police, or later I seeing my father, like even just like land transfers or getting those corrected, it's never so easy. Like I can say simplify the corruption is something which it used to hit me. But I did my engineering from Bangalore. I think people from Bangalore know RV College. So most of my friends switched on, moved out. At that time, it was a question whether you still want to keep criticizing the system or try to be part and see what can I do. I mean, if I'm criticizing, if I should try to get an opportunity and see how I'm going to react. So that's how I ended. But it's never an easy. I joined Indian Forest Service in the year 2016. So with this mentality, I joined. So when I joined after 16 months of training, after I joined Meghalaya, so I was mentally prepared in this way. That corruption is the one thing which is I'm going to see in my career. I should be mentally prepared for this. Exactly like how ma'am gave me the surprise, I got a surprise in Meghalaya. Meghalaya, I mean, most of my interaction with bureaucrats is very limited to some of my college mates who got into civil service before me, who were in bigger cadres. There they were sharing their experiences, which was further aligning with my earlier thoughts. It's bureaucracy. They were also struggling to break those. This one. So it continued, but when I joined Meghalaya, it's different. I mean, frankly speaking, my first initial months or even first 2 years, corruption was not actually issue there. And for some time I realized financial resources is an issue because Meghalaya is a northeastern state. We have our own challenges, restrictions. But once I actually got into proper work of, say, bureaucracy with little more responsibilities, neither this corruption, I would say, or the financial resources were not an issue. We started, fortunately, I got to work in projects financed by World Bank, one from Japan, JICA, now KFW and ADB. All of these projects are community driven. Again, maybe I would say thanks to the seniors who designed these projects, somehow they ensured it has to be community based. So even I don't have to worry. The other theoretical discussion which happens, whether it's a top-down approach or bottom-up approach, I don't have to worry about that because already my projects, which I am part of that, which Sir is project director of 2 such projects, it's already community-driven. So, see, it looks like all my problems are solved. I don't have to worry anything. So it's an easy cake. So initially I started working. Things were moving good. Then initial success gives you happiness. Then once you start introspecting, you realize, okay, not everything is as going great as it is. If your focus is on a very small set of activities which I wanted to do, I'm doing good. But if you look a larger picture, I'm still working in a silos. My impact is mostly for my own satisfaction that I'm doing good, but on a larger scale, how I'm doing it's not something great. This is the realization I felt. I'm also part of the failure. I'm still learning that mostly I feel we bureaucrats or the system is such that we work in silos. Even in a small state like Meghalaya, where it's a limited number of bureaucrats, I would say we have this problem. At the same time, I am also currently in part of agriculture department, so I interact with the Government of India Agriculture Ministry. I see there also, it's within the ministry. If I want to, I'm talking to the digital agriculture department, I ask if any other question not related to digital agriculture, it's like completely like black hole. No, we don't know anything about this. It's us also. What I realized is communication in bureaucracy is like, it goes like this. Only here, if the channel is open, they interact, it will come down. At the bottom also, at the lower level of hierarchy also, there is no horizontal interaction. At the top, it's only, I would say, it's mostly individual based. If these 2 officers are also of the same opinion that they have to work in close coordination, things will move, or else it will not move. This is the challenge which I am feeling, which I was part of the failure, which I'm still saying. But for me, something, positive development happened. When we are dealing, when I realized, it's like a great coincidence. First, Sir is handling multiple departments, community and rural department. He's also the project director of the first project which I had at World Bank project. Sir is also of the same opinion that we are working in silos. We are not doing justice to the entire objectivity. And slowly, in further later interaction, to my great surprise, my CM sir was telling exactly the same thoughts. You people come to me, he was always giving this one example. A water resource department comes to me, present me what they are doing on water. Soil and water conservation comes, present to me what they are doing. Similarly, there are like 4 or 5 departments on water or natural resource management sector, they are working, they present, but I am not getting a bigger picture what exactly is happening overall. I have to see department centric. So then, not because just sir is sitting here, it's anything I tell will be always less. He enabled one institution for this. It is Meghalaya State Climate Change Governing Council, which is headed by a CM sir. So all the senior most ministers. Is it time over? That's why. Okay. Yeah, it's enabled, but just creating, I mean, my feeling is just creating institution will not do everything. It won't set things right. Uh, but we started making efforts. So in my own side, what my contribution here is, I'm from that corporate background, technology background. Meghalaya, I mean, I should have told little about Meghalaya. Meghalaya is a completely different state. It's a 6th-schedule state. When I say 6th-schedule, the administrative machinery is completely different. I mean, it takes days if I start explaining, but just to simplify, literally there is no data, no baseline data on anything. With my previous experience, we started gathering. I created a small team of young college passed out students, but who understand technology. We created the first state geo center, like scrap data. Unfortunately, the own data which states uploads in Government of India portal, we won't get access. So what we started doing, we started scrapping. Wherever it's possible, we brought more than 400, 500 layers of information. Just to give this example of water, we tried to bring all the water related activities into one single platform, started giving visibility from data perspective. Yeah, our CMs are also went into an extreme version. I think again, the reason who enabled this, he started his first of its kind called cabinet retreat. He also like just telling you people has to come and present me as a team, it was never working. He told whenever if you have such meetings in Shillong, you people come, you present your part, you run away. Because we all have so many meetings, we are all busy people, which our CMs are also told. So let's make this, we'll not have the next meeting here, we'll have it somewhere some 70 kilometers outside Shillong. So you people don't have to give an excuse that you have to attend other meeting or you have to go home. So the 2 days exercise was nothing but make everyone sit and understand what others is doing. I would say it's a very small step, but a very essential first step. But I won't say it's a success. I personally feel, on the other side, how the corruption part is so strong, it's so institutionalized, it person independent. One person cannot grow and break those systems. Similarly, if this system has to work, it has to get institutionalized. I hope the positive leadership which we are right now having from political to the senior officials, if it continues maybe next few years, maybe I don't know, it may take 5 years or it may take 10 years, till it get institutionalized, the efforts should go, then only we start seeing the results. As of now, it's still a kind of failure, but still we are making efforts. I think with this, close my words, ma'am. I'm sorry I didn't prepare you. Thank you.
As the silo culture. I have kept it. We're not going into that, but I keep that as a main point because we started off yesterday saying we need to increase collaborative culture. So the antithesis of collaborative culture is wanting to work in silos. Now I come to Kerala. You know, all of us, I mean, I spent 30 years in Delhi, so Kerala is like a dream state. So I want to listen to you from Sir, Mr. Vijayanand. Please tell us on your long experiences, why is Kerala the peer state in this country, please?
It's not just about Kerala, about big programs in the social sector.
Yeah.
Are they failures? Are they successes? I'm not defending government. There are no absolute failures in government, especially long programs. There could be short failures. Many of the programs of government, both state, more so government of India, they've been long lasting. Narega may be 15 years old now, or yeah, almost touching 20 years. But the employment guarantee program started in the 50s. So there's a process of learning by doing. It may not be written down, but there's huge institutional memory in government. If you go and ask them to write down, they will not tell you. It comes up during a crisis. So suddenly something is failing, then we all get into action, it goes down. Even otherwise, we get a sense of what is failing. It's a kind of, not our skill, but there are so many systems in government which throw up signals. And then we may not admit failures in public. Many of you don't know, internally, we discuss failures which cannot be detected by anybody. Openly. Not record and publish it, but we discuss. Which is how we tend to adjust to failures. In a state like Kerala, it is extremely sharp. how do you, your accountability, how does it come? We say performance. No. You have to justify your decision in a state like Kerala. I issue a government order. I was in Panchayat Raj, local government, for 15 long years. Then next day, I am asked, why did you issue it? Can you justify it? And which means I should have thought through. And I have slipped several times. So thinking through multiple cycles will improve performance. That's one way we cope with potential failures. And again, more than fail in government is more of flailing. Sometimes it slips, sometimes it goes up, and sometimes it goes down. So that part, I want you to get it. And when there's big schemes, you can't undo. You need to repair. Essentially, you can't undo. You can suddenly, somebody cannot say, close NRLM. There are a lot of, I'm sure Suryakumar will illustrate that. There are a lot of deficiencies. I myself can list them. You can't suddenly do, so somebody will. But one beautiful thing of government, as of now, I don't know, in future it will be with the electronic age, it's like an old ambassador car. Mechanics can repair it and make it run very well. So you can tinker many other things at many levels and make fundamental changes also in government. For want of time, I cannot illustrate case by case. So, and then the projects, we may say they are rigid. They are not rigid. Lot of flexibility is there for a person who knows for incremental improvement, but not for dramatic improvement. And things change. So I was interviewed during the lunchtime. We started with women's groups in 1980s as part of poverty alleviation. It's called DWCRA. Then, after some time, we learned they are not organic groups, just put together artificially for a benefit. Then, by 90s, it became self-help groups. More organic, then it became self-help groups. Then we learned they are independent, scattered. The strength of the collective is not coming. And then by 2009, it became SHGs and federations of SHGs. Women collectives going higher and higher. Okay, thrift and credit. Then after some time, people learned that we need enterprises. Initially, livelihood enterprises in animal husbandry, now trying or dreaming for enterprises in the manufacturing sector. Can lessons of Amul be grafted onto the SHG network? Technically, theoretically possible. So how this, because we learned certain failures, we didn't say the SHG has failed or thrift system has failed, but can we take it to the next step? And a lot of negative learnings and learnings from negatives. And then suddenly we realized that the panchayats are getting a lot of money. And there is something to get from engaging panchayats. From confidence up to power. So, Government of India pushed the idea of SHG Panchayat partnership. So, SHGs are being taken to a higher level. Now, that's being rolled out in many states, including Karnataka. Then suddenly, gender came. The latest in gender. Earlier, nobody thought of gender in SHG. There was a gender element inbuilt, but a conscious gender element to assert your gender rights. So, the ministry has started discussing. These are all not reached any fruition. The latest thing, in spite of all this, we know poor are not homogeneous. And certain proportion varies from state to state, are left out completely. So suddenly, they have come out with what's called poorest of the poor program. People who are totally marginalized should be brought into the livelihood fold. They cannot even have livelihoods. They may need welfare for a long time. So see the growth. So if you look at one point of time, it would be failure. But if you look at the successive point of time, it will not be success, but you have come out of abject failure. So that is a very, very important feature. And what is failure? Of course, as I said, it can't be black and white. And I don't want to define failure. And we may communicate failures in different ways to different people. That is part of government, part of everywhere. Not hiding. That is very important. It's not hypocrisy. Somewhere we would be telling the truth. Somewhere we would not hiding. We'll say this is the half empty, half full kind of syndrome. Then contrary to popular impression, when I didn't think in that thing, way back 30 years ago, I was a deputy secretary in the ministry. We had a very iconic secretary at the time, one B.N. Yugandhar. He happens to be the father of Satyam Nadella. He once deposed before the Parliament Committee, which is a very eminent Parliament Committee. They were questioning, you're doing nothing about monitoring. Then Mr. Yugandhar said, we have 7 layers of monitoring. I said, do we have 7 layers? And he listed out. Right from a village officer reviewing and all communicating. It's not discrete layers. Going up and up, ultimately the Parliamentary Committee questioning, sir, you are the final monitor. And after that, AG is not a monitor, but AG will also look into it. So it doesn't look very structured like a corporate, and it's not presented like that. It exists. So people who want to use it can use it at any level. And the beauty, you all said, organizations can be vast, intricate systems, the word used by you. But they also lend solidity. They also have variety. At some point of time, either vertically or horizontally, somebody will be performing very well. We can look down to that person and learn. Look at states. I don't want to take names. Look at the differences of the same schemes. But some are doing very well in improbable circumstances. Some are doing very well. Some are doing very poorly in positive circumstances. So, a lot of lessons in learning from this. And then government also has a channel of communication, which unfortunately opens up more during a crisis. If there is a crisis situation in Narega, within 24 hours you can reach the last village. Not just through IT. Through your conventional talking down, you can reach the last person, communicate something, get the feedback, make changes. If there is a crisis, fortunately, there is no extreme crisis. So that is the way we can do this. And then mitigating the risks. Actually, as I said, many of them is a continuity. It's built in. If you ask, go and verify a file, did you look at the risk analysis? Probably nothing would have been done. But it would have all been there in so many things, and it gets into the risk kind of thing. And in greenfield areas, of course, government starts very small. And it closes without your knowing that things have failed. You will not know. It's a very small scheme of few hundred crores, and it will not fail. And again, since it's a large organization, existing over maybe 5 generations of officers, not 5 generations in time, nobody is afraid of individual responsibility, which makes you bold enough to correct. Of course, you can say unaccountable of that previous secretary who didn't do any work, but you can correct. Because nobody is going to be pulled up, nobody is going to be punished. And you can send it down. This I say, of course, from a managerial sense is a negative, but from a governmental movement forward, it is. So you allow this and don't demotivate people. So it's like, let me conclude. I think I'm nearing my 10 minutes from the clock. So it's a long history. And most importantly, government failure or success is not black and white. It's a mosaic. And our skill comes from looking at spots and finding which spot could be potentially dangerous. That would be, I would say, is the ultimate skill of a bureaucrat. You can't verify it in a performance index or a performance appraisal. But if you look at, I've seen hundreds of outstanding bureaucrats, some of them legends in my 36-year career. And then this is how it operates. Maybe not very convincing, but it's a very honest presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Do you all agree that after this presentation, you all feel very assured that the governments do their best and it is continuous and incremental, and there are ways of fixing the problem? Thank you. Thank you, sir. So I now invite P.V.S. Suryakumar ji, NABARD, because it almost looks like a continuum. After that, I will invite you, because you have to tell what all has been heard in bureaucracy. How does it connect with the politics?
Okay.
Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. I used to work with just one slide. You can put it up. When it's absent, put the slide. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Suryakumar, and till very recently, I was working with NABARD. Those of you who came from abroad, NABARD is basically the development bank in India, which deals with agriculture and rural development. We primarily have 3 functions. We are a quasi-regulator, We supervise the rural financial institutions, regional rural banks and cooperative banks. We have a business function. We fund rural infrastructure to state governments and state government entities. We work with banks, we refinance banks. That's where we make our money. And we use a considerable part of the money in the third function, which is called as development function. All best practices we fund. We deal with a host of what you call organizations in the civil society. Morning, Ustrom was talking about regenerative agriculture. So India also, there is so much talk on regenerative agriculture. I think while people are talking now, we already launched the program 2 years back, and it's a full agroecology program, and it is running very fine. We're thinking to make it big. Okay, so what I'm going to talk is, I'm going to talk about one project where I was directly responsible to implement. And it is not my project. It is the project of the Government of India, but I am empowered. I am vested with the responsibility to implement it. And while closing, I will also talk about two important programs which all of you know. One is the self-help group program, microfinance program, and this FPO program which everyone thinks it is a silver bullet. While closing, I will talk about it when I'm closing the thing. Okay, coming to the first project which I dealt with. So I think handlooms are an important component of every country, every region. When handlooms are gone, culture is gone. When culture is gone, you are no good. Without culture, there is no country. So India, we have 3.5 million weavers. In the last 30 years, they shrunk by 52%. And this sector is worth 500 billion Indian rupees. We export $250 million worth from this sector. So things were not doing fine. In 2011, Government of India launched a big program for handloom weavers. It was 3,884 crore rupees program, 388 billion Indian rupees. And you should also look at the time, they launched it in 2011 budget. And by the time the whole thing comes in, it came somewhere in June, July, people started working. Some initial things were done. I moved to Delhi at that point of time. My boss told me, you run this program, you are responsible. Then I started looking into this. The time period which the Government of India gave is just December 2012, because 2014 elections were coming. So new cycle was beginning. They wanted to complete the whole thing. What they wanted, they thought this 388 billion rupees will be given to the handloom sector. In handloom sector, we have something called as weavers. We have primary weaver societies, apex weaver societies, and state handloom corporations. This money is supposed to be given, the government thought in a very, very binary way. Primarily, the whole sector is not doing fine because the money is blocked. I put money, bingo, everything opens. That was the simple thought. But actually, it is not exactly that. So as Sir just now talked about incremental improvement, this particular program is copied from a agriculture credit revitalization program, which is 4 times bigger. This is 400 billion rupees. That was 1600 billion rupees. NABARD was responsible for implementing that also. It is called short-term, revival of short-term cooperative credit structure. They simply cut and pasted this. And when I came to Delhi and I was told I am responsible for implementing this, I was the convener for the whole program, where I deal with the state governments, that means the secretaries of handlooms. I deal with the state level bankers committee. I deal with Government of India ministries, and I run the program. If I don't run, my head is on the chopping block. So for some time this went on. So I discovered soon this is not working. So I went up to the Additional Secretary, Commerce, and said, sir, we are in trouble. This doesn't work. So he told me, I will take you to someone bigger. He took me to someone bigger. So I went and told her, this is how it is. So she told me, you're telling me this is a dead baby. I said, this is not becoming a dead baby, this is already a dead baby. No, it is for you to handle it. So no one wanted to touch. So I thought I'm the fall guy now. So sometime meetings used to happen in the bureaucracy. So everyone knew and everyone was silent. Then, after some time, a very powerful minister who took this to the cabinet and got it cleared and went to the parliament was started reviewing. He used to review at 8:30 in the evening. It used to go till 10 o'clock. And he would fire everyone. 2 secretaries to the government of India, so many joint secretaries, and me. And I have 2 members, like working in Delhi is a very tricky thing. In my office also, because I am responsible for everyone. And I have this particular baby which doesn't move. So after some time I said, he was firing 1 round, 2 round, 3 round. Then I said, what is that? I told him, sir, this program doesn't work. How can you talk to me like this? I said, the reality is this. If I prove you wrong, I said, sir, I'll be too happy because I'm responsible for this. Then he took his cell phone, called chief minister of one state, said, this is going, I'll call. He called. So he called, said, sir, I will do all these things, chief minister said. So everyone was listening. Then I told him, sir, I already know that state, they're not working because the state is supposed to pay 25% of this money. There is some other politics, it is not working. Then this went on for some time. After 3-4 weeks of meeting, then he told me, Suryakumar, tell me what I should do. I told him, sir, the whole thing is wrong. We need to really I think those of you who don't understand government, there is something called as a Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. It is chaired by none other than the Prime Minister. When something goes to the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, get cleared, no joint secretary who signs the paper will have the guts to go and get it corrected because he's saying he's made a mistake. So I told him, sir, this is the only way. How much money will go? I said, out of 3,884 crores, maybe 1,500 crores will go. Then there were a lot of problematic definitions there. Then I told him, sir, this need to be done. So then he said, oh, we will do. Finally, we got that done. Means the cabinet committee note was what you call changed. And just simply look at the statistics. Originally, they thought they would give money to 44 apex societies. When we did the initial approximation, I told the minister, so maybe 20 will come. Then out of 16,000 primary weaver societies, around 4,000 became approximately eligible. Then they wanted to help 3,000 weavers, they wanted to give a grant of 50,000 rupees. Only 4,000-5,000 was eligible. Then finally we pushed the whole thing. 30 out of 44, 39 weaver societies we could give money. Out of 16,000 societies, we gave money to 9,600 societies. Out of 3 lakh weavers, which they wanted to give, we could give money only to 52,000 people. Out of 3,884 crores of money, we gave 1,090. That means out of 388 billion Indian rupees, we could disperse 11 billion rupees. See, what is the slide now? So, what exactly, the copying really created a problem. Let me try to summarize it to make the understanding easily available, taught to everyone. For example, when we run a program, so we should be very clear, are the objectives clearer? Here the objective is all weavers across the country will be same. In fact, they also copied something called as a Kisan credit card, they copied to weaver credit card. Kisan works in a different way, weaver works in a different way. Cut and paste doesn't work. There was no clarity at all. So hence it didn't really got into real trouble. And giving money alone to the weavers doesn't help. So finally we could resuscitate that, but then some money went in because they wanted to prove, but it didn't, all this money went off. Means it really didn't work. Some benefit did definitely happen, poverty elevation took place. Here one more thing is, second thing is, are you an implementer or are you a manager? If you're time is up, 2 minutes, right? Yeah. So are you an implementer or a manager? If you're an implementer, is your manager giving you space to do? If you are a manager, are you giving space to the person who's implementing? Is that clearer? That we should be very, very clear. Then when we're talking about a project, you should have If it is a very complicated project, you need to do a sandbox, or you need to do phasing. Here, there is no phasing. They wanted to complete the whole thing in 2 years. Finally, I could push and make it work. I took 15 more months. By the time I moved out of Delhi, I completed the project and moved out. So one more major problem is, unless until the processes are stabilized, no scheme works at all. And one more, I think, two examples I want to tell. Just I'll take one extra minute, ma'am. For example, the self-help group movement, which Vijayanand sir was talking about, I think self-help microfinance is constantly in the news. Those of you who are from Karnataka know that there is a burning problem happening in the microfinance sector.
Always.
Because microfinance is a access to finance program. It is not a, how much, if you really look at the averages, 22,000 rupees is the money available in SHG across the country, and 40,000 rupees in the MFI sector. So these things don't seed an enterprise. They are access to access to finance money. We should be very clear about what the objective is. Likewise, when we're talking about FPOs, everyone talks FPO is a great thing. I'm not saying it is a great thing. I'm not saying it is a bad thing. But FPO I should also think through. FPO is a band-aid to a rigged agricultural marketing system. Band-aid is a damn band-aid. It doesn't work. Out of 45,000 FPOs, 15,000 FPOs have done all the submissions. Only 2,000 got the credit. So, last point I want to say, when we're talking about monitoring and monitoring, people use very complicated systems. Monitoring should be extremely simple. An FPO program runs well when they get the money. Microfinance is an access to finance program. Weavers think how many type of fabrics they will do, what type of thing, how many traditions they will preserve. If you complicate MEL, everything goes into topsy-turvy. That is what most of the MEL consultants create problems to the project managers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a very vivid description of a project. All of us now know what weavers' challenges are and what the challenges of helping the weavers are. So it's both ways. This is a topic very important. Now I would like to move to the last speaker. I already told Darshanji that I will ask him to speak. No, last in this chain. Rural development, agriculture. When I go to ISRO, that's an entirely different story. And Sampath Kumarji has a special status. So, agriculture, before I hand over the mic to him, I really want you, sir, to speak about the FPO issue. Because I think somewhere it is at the core of the transformation in the agriculture sector, and some of you who have followed the farmers movement, the agriculture in your own state, you may be coming from the farming families. So what is it? What is it all about that such a big structure is set up, and anybody you talk to who is involved, they say it's failing. So, sir, over to you.
Thank you. I think giving a politician a mic and asking him to finish everything in 8 minutes is not a good thing. So, first of all, I'm very humbled to be on the panel, a remarkable panel here. So, thank you, Selco, for giving me this opportunity to speak here. I think I can go on about a lot of issues that we face day in, day out. I just want to give you some context in terms of why my background is important, because I came from the tech side as well, like you. Spent 20 plus years in the US and then just came back and said, okay, I need to do something for the community, jumped right back in to politics. First time I lost, second time I won as an independent. So I had a lot of learning. Really, I just needed to understand the system ground up, because the India I knew or the systems I knew were decades old. So I really had to learn that. It took me 8-9 months to really understand everything, understand the problem itself. But at the beginning, when since we're talking about failures, after I won, I said, all right, people started coming to me with a lot of issues, and I said, okay, we should put a system in place for things to get solved. And I said, let's open up a quick call, 2-3 people call center, and ask people to call this number and say, report all the issues that they see every day. And then automatically created a backlog of all these issues and assigned it to appropriate departments. And said, all right, departments will take care of it. So I don't need to do anything. So, well, I fell flat on my face. And, initially, we did get, started getting about 100 plus calls a day for maybe a week or two. And then eventually it went down to about 50. Then eventually it died completely. So nobody wanted to call the number and report an issue. They actually wanted to come meet me personally, and wanted to essentially humanize the entire process itself, right? Like just come in and talk to me and get the assurance that these issues can be solved. Like I represent a rural constituency. We have about 236 villages that comes under constituency. So everybody wanted to come in and see me. So the reason why I even thought about putting this process in place is because I just did a quick math. 5 years is my term. Maybe if I meet everybody, we approximately have about 80,000 homes. If one person, I might probably reach about 5,000 homes at the most. So what about the rest of the 75,000 homes that I cannot reach? So that's why I really thought, okay, let's create a system and put that system in place. Like I said, we fell flat on our face. People who used to come and meet me, we also started tracking why are these people coming and meeting me. So 70+% of the people who were coming and meeting me was all related to revenue issues, land issues, some government related, but essentially all revenue related. The other 10% was get me a job, recommendation letters, and then other 10% more so for a lot of, if they've done something wrong, I need to call the cops and say, give them a break. So those are, these are all real issues that a politician really faces. And I think these are all things that we started tracking. Like, okay, how do we solve this? The problem was, I wanted my time back. Because if I was always in problem solving mode, there is no way I could do the actual work that I'm supposed to do. I soon realized that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm doing, I'm supposed to be doing, doing work on policy changes and things like that, just spending about understanding the problems at the ground level. So absolutely zero. So then what we decided was, since I come from the tech side, I said, let's do a panchayat hackathon. So we said, all right, let's go, let's bring the entire, like all 28, 30 departments to the panchayat, and we said, we'll stay here for 2 weeks and resolve, I said all, then said, oh yes, a little bit of it, some of these issues. So we stayed there and we said, oh, and we are coming up with this new idea, and then everybody, like we just did some press release so people could come and take advantage of this program. First day, we put the pandal up, like the tent up, and said, we'd be flooded, people would be waiting. We had zero. So nobody, I think this is where we kept learning, right? Like the empathy was missing. Like we were not able to relate to what what their understanding of this whole process was. So we actually had to go to each and every house, like although we were campaigning again to run for elections, and said, hey, please come take advantage of this. We will give you. So the whole reason why we did this was like, oh, let's actually be proactive than reactive. Meaning, in the process, like everybody agrees here is, you have to give an application to get something done in the government setting. There is no system in place where you go actually do things before it is actually asked for. So how do we reverse this is where we really started and said, okay, let's actually go to a panchayat and have them come. Again, we fell flat on our face. We thought, oh, this is a great idea. Everybody wants to take advantage of this. I think then we dove deeper and said, why? Why are people not coming in? And they said, hey, this is all bluff. You know, you're just doing this for self-promotion and whatnot. And we really were thinking we'll do that. Eventually, we went and dragged people out. We dragged people out and said, hey, we'll do the actual work. The reason why this was also an important learning was both for the government officials as well as for us, is like the joint director here, he said, silos, right? One of the things that you took on was the water department. Drinking water to irrigation water, they don't speak to each other at all. So we had to bring these people together. So just giving you a simple example. The village has been in existence for about 450, 500 years. There's this one street. Just giving you this example because how silos are actually affecting issues. So you needed multiple departments to solve an issue in that one small street in a small village. So you needed the electricity department, you needed the panchayat raj, you also needed the revenue, you needed the surveyor, everybody wanted to do that. So since we were present in that one panchayat, all these departments were there, we were able to go in and execute that, which was a hundreds of years old problem. So slowly we were trying to learn that. Like initially we thought, I used to call somebody and say, hey, take care of this problem. I also started tracking that and saying, okay, when I call the government official, they're supposed to listen to an MLA, right? That's the I think expectation, I guess. I started tracking that as well. Of the 100 calls I made, maybe 3 or 4 would have got solved. And that was again an egg on my face. That okay, one time I called, it gets done. So that's not the case. So these are quick learnings. Time check. 1 minute. Okay, I'll stay true. I'll not be a politician here. So those issues and in that 1 minute, I have a lot more stories that I can share. But I think a lot of learnings, and even at the policy level, right? So since you talked about, I introduced a private member bill on climate change, and that was introduced 3 sessions ago. I thought, I introduced something new, it's a private member bill, everybody will be happy, and so everybody will support me. And the subcommittee asked me to come and present it 100 times. And they said they didn't want this bill to be presented as a private member bill. They wanted it to be a government bill that they wanted. So anyway, long story short, I think some of the lessons that we have learned is no matter how good your idea is, how the expectation is different, and if you miss the empathy part of it, it is always going to be a hard lesson. That's something that I learned coming from a different background and jumping into politics as a whole. And then FPOs, because ma'am asked me to cover the FPO side of things. In a general sense, this is what I don't get mad if I say this is, I think what I've seen is we actually have a lot of plans, but I don't think there is a follow through. And I think that is the major issue with the FPOs not being successful as well, is really just implementation, making sure we have the right advice, we have the right hand-holding required for these programs to be successful. And I think in a tech world, right, day 1, day 2. So we are very good at day 1. We're implementing, go build a building. We have all politicians come take pictures. 1 year down the line, it's all dead. The operations, the day 2 operations is where I think a lot of the budgets need to be allocated. I mean, those are some observations that I've had. With that, like I said, I have a lot more lessons that I wanted to share. Just one more last thing, sorry. Or techs, because I'm from tech, I want to share this one. I'll take 30 seconds. I thought, Karnataka, Silicon City, everything is, the government would have adopted a lot of tech. Yes, they have adopted, we've made progress. I'm not complaining because we are talking about failures. I just wanted to openly talk about this. So I dove deeper and wanted to understand how these processes work, right? Like and then how tech has actually been implemented and why, you use tech to, cut down the processes and optimize the processes and make sure it is actually giving the actual results. So when I dove deeper into the tech side of implementation, we have a system called e-government, which is where all the applications get processed. Bureaucrats here know exactly what that is. What I really understood and found is with hundreds of crores or thousands of crores of money that we have spent, especially in that specific program, we have replaced the application has gone from this table to application has gone to this login. It is still, we still have to go to that person and talk to that person from that chair to that chair. So I think we thought, again, a learning from there is I understood that, okay, tech is involved now. Instead of 16, 14 different steps, we would have optimized it to 3 different steps. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I think these learnings have helped me grow and grow in my role as well. So again, thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's very, in some ways, I think you fulfilled the wish that there is a very brutal explanation of what your job or challenge throws at you and what are your options, how you handle it. And you, in fact, reiterated what I always felt in my work, that the ground moves firstly differently. You might think that मैं ये करूँगी तो ये हो जाएगा. That does not happen. That is one. Secondly, it also moves slowly. You want things to be done in a certain time frame, and particularly coming from the tech world, I think, and today with the media around, everything has become very condensed, but that is not how reality moves. Thank you so much. Now I want all of us to enter the space world. You all have seen the great progress that this country has done, and I'm very glad that we have among us, among the panelists, someone who has seen it all from the science perspective. So, sir, I also want you to tell in layman terms the jumps that we have done as a country in the real science. The tech people talk is very different from the science that institutions like ISRO have to deal with. So I do want to hear a few of those challenges, plus the incremental bureaucracy, sir, that you explained. Now, the incremental bureaucracy and jumps in science at least don't go together in my head. So over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be present here. It's indeed very refreshing to see that celebrating failures is an issue, and it's something very nice, because in our area, it is always, because when you are trying to push beyond your current capability, you are looking at making things happen which is not known to you today. Failures are everyday activity. So you need to learn how to deal with it. Just to put things in perspective, what was being talked about. See, you're all familiar, we got our independence in 1947. In 1957, humanity got a new capability, a capability of going beyond planet Earth. At that time, the 2 superpowers were competing with each other to demonstrate who is more capable and mightier. And at that time, we had a great individual in our country who looked at how this, in a way, you can say a technological breakthrough can be used in country which is a fledgling democracy just 10 years into independence, how it can take advantage of this disruptive technology. And it was the idea of Dr. Sarabhai to look at making it happen. And first few things that were done is making use of the technological capability, bringing in communication, broadcasting, and weather monitoring to the country, which was very essential because at that point of time, if people had to communicate with each other, probably one had to go to a telegraph office, wait for a couple of hours. If they're lucky, they will get a connection. Compared to that, you can see the changes that happened in beyond 80s, etc. So the prime objective of this organization was bring in the capability of space technology to the country and address problems we are facing on the floor or on the society. So in that, communication, broadcasting, weather monitoring, addressing problems of cyclone and disasters, etc. So obviously here, like it was already pointed out, it is one thing to make a technological capability, bring in solutions, but it is quite another thing to make it work for the people in the country. And in fact, we have umpteen examples where that in a way, you will all realize that if you go to somebody and tell that you can do what you are doing differently, the first reaction will be, I know my job better, who are you to tell me? So it's a lot of difficulty in trying to showcase to them that the new technological capability can make a huge difference to the way things are being done. I'll just give one example. So for a fisherman, we were able to find a method by which, looking at the color of the ocean from orbiting satellites, you can find out where exactly the fisherman can go for fishing. Because once you identify chlorophyll through the food chain of the fish, you can tell where in the ocean fishermen can get the fish. This act alone saves to the country between 10 to 15,000 crores a year, because the fishermen can go to the place without spending extra fuel, diesel, petrol and all that. So that's the way it happens. But in spite of that, providing this capability through small gadgets which have been devised, to provide it to the fishermen, one high court had to pass an order to the government to allow this to happen. Because on ground reality is so different that this gadget was not being allowed to be provided to the fishermen. So like this, and in a similar manner, when we brought in our first weather monitoring satellite, the department which is supposed to do the actual weather monitoring and disseminate information wanted to keep the processing part of it to themselves, and only the collection of data from space was allowed to be done by the Department of Space. This again created sort of a difficulty, and it took another almost 2 decades before that department also started working effectively solving the problem. So just to put another thing in perspective, beyond that, when you look at in 2019, for example, when we were about to land on moon, the entire country was looking at it. And at that time, we were very close, within few hundred meters of where we were supposed to touch down. And probably many of you would also have seen that we failed in that attempt. And then how the failures are dealt. And at that time, you saw also the person at the top actually, in a way, consoled the people who are working, telling that you are making a great effort, you need to continue. And then 4 years of effort from 2019, identifying what are the corrective actions you need to do and how to make it happen was put into real effort. And 2023, August, when you saw the successful landing in a region where nobody else had done. So it shows that the government systems, there is enough resilience and enough capability in making technological things work. But then the real problem is, make that technology work for the people requires on-ground effort, and that is where much of the thing, whatever friend was talking about, that technology can do so many things, but make the technology work for the people requires constant effort to showcase what is possible, and then also learn corrective measures. And in this context, some of the great leaders of our organizations realized it early that whenever you are formulating new programs, you need to bring in the user community as part of that and build as much as possible those features into that. But notwithstanding that, again, much of the success of the Department of Space also in bringing in technology from space is again because it is not subject to so many ground controls, and it's happening in space. So in space, you have less of the controls. Madam was talking about bureaucracy and then our own interaction with other bureaucracy, etc. And the more and more funds are made available, technologically you can make progress, but then translating that into reality and bringing it as solutions to the people and make it work. Even in Manrega, I can tell many stories, but I'll just cut it short to tell technologically you can make things, information is available, and this information is actually useful, and useful for those who are already entrenched in the system, don't want this information to be available to everybody, because that will in many ways prevent their own capability of ruling the system the way they rule. And this is where the real problem comes. Technology can bring in information, make it available, make it democratic, but then there are always systems which have to be tackled, and this is where much of the problem exists, and more opportunities where we can share how successes and failures can be dealt with. Maybe one last example. If many times it is said that if you have to learn everything by your own failure, one lifetime may not be sufficient for achieving success. But if you can learn from others' mistakes, then definitely not only can you be called a smart person, but also you can succeed. We had one such example, Mars mission, where many countries had made multiple attempts to reach Mars and put a satellite into orbit. But India got the credit for achieving this in its maiden attempt because we were able to look at the kind of problems they faced in their implementation. And it was possible for us to, in a way, modify and learn from their mistakes. And we were able to achieve, in a way, success. So I really compliment the people who conceived of this to share examples of failure and then treat failure as first attempt in learning. As Kalam used to say, it's a great thing. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
So we are moving towards the end of the session. So we've heard from the panelists. We also have a little time pressure. Next session is what? Fireside chat? Yeah. So, no. But I still don't want to leave you without making your remarks. But I have a different question. You know, we all are sitting here and we started saying that there is an opaque curtain between the government processes and how we as citizens experience the government. So I want you to give us some tips, some advice on how to approach the government officials, or the politicians. So be better citizens, because it's also exercising our duties, our rights as citizens. So over to you, sir.
So I have 5 minutes. Okay. So thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, I was really, I came here to learn from everyone actually who's speaking here, and also learning from the questions which comes from the audience. So before answering your particular question, I just wanted to give one reflection on how to navigate failures, especially from the government's perspective. So I wanted to take what our respected Vijayanand sir has started. He said government actually works in a long-term basis. So basically what he says is that there is an incremental progress would be there. We need to really understand that. When it's like a government is like a SIP, you all know SIP. So when you make investments, if you invest in SIP, what happens is that, like, there is a fluctuations, but there is always a progress. But basically, you need to give good enough period to actually see the success that you wanted to see. So government is like that. So I just wanted to say this. At the same time, I also wanted to say one of the important things, actually, in fact, very, such a young, technocrat turned into a politician. I think great listening to you, your stories of like your initiatives. And so one of the things, actually, many people, not only, in fact, it's a very, very, I think we don't really understand how to see define a problem. We see most of the time the problems are technical in nature. We can fix the problem with a technical solution. But that's in the government, it's not the case. Government, the problems are not technical. Technical are very simple. We think that like DBT, direct benefit transfer, would transform. Yes, it transforms to a large extent, but it also has, again, a last mile challenges would be there. You need to really understand how actually they are working. So what I wanted to say is that you also need to, in fact, identify whether this is a technical problem alone, or is it also adaptive problem. What is adaptive problem? Basically, what is that, the people are really wanted. Do they want, like, is it really working? Like, we can say that a system we can set up, but system is really working or not. So this is the second thing, that insight, I think, for everybody, we have to say, is it a technical? Because it's very easy to, say that, like, this problem can be solved by a telemedicine. It is not. You require, a different kind of a, approach, when you have an emergency, how actually you would really respond to. So a lot of that, thinking is required. Then the third one, especially with the government's, I would say, navigating failure. So one important thing with the government is that you, unlike the other sectors, who's the authorizer in the government to actually, to make an experiment, or to forgive, or to try a failure? It is the people, right? Because people elect the government, and it is the political leadership, that is the authorize the, experiments. So you need to understand that one when we talk about the government. So if once we understand that one, then if we can work, on those lines, basically getting that authorization by building that necessary political support, we can do a lot of experimentations. And that experimentation, of course, the experimentation, sometimes you fail. But as I said, it's a kind of a, you need to see whether we are making a progress. Are we actually seeing that, like, whether we are achieving targets or not target? Basically, most of the time, we always see the programs more from the inputs point of view. We never see the programs from the outcomes point of view. So I think it takes some time. So that's where we need to really see. So I'll come to your point. Like, at the end, I just wanted to, say how actually to deal with the government. Like, this is what, like, you wanted, how actually deal with the government. So there is one thing is that it is every citizen has a right over the government, right? That's why you feel, you feel that, like, it's our, it's our own government. I have a right to actually participate. So in that anxiety, yes, you always express frustration than the appreciation. So I would like to say is that how actually, maybe if you can see that point, what actually, how when you actually approach a problem, maybe you have to put yourself in that particular, the other side of the person actually who's handling that particular problem. So, and then understand, okay, how actually, I can be of some help in terms of, for example, there is a presentation I have been observing. There is a ward sabhas, right? Like, you have this citizens participation. How many people actually participate and contribute? It's a very the Gram Sabha concept, we call it in villages, and Ward Sabha concepts. So there are so many, for direct governance, there are so many opportunities are there. Now with all this social media handle, in fact, like our chief minister, in fact, he responds through Twitter, okay? So people can actually tag on him and, he immediately sends the message to the concerned officials and, you get the information. So there are now very good ways of actually participating. I only think is that we really have to see that, understand risky ventures. So it's also like that, basically when you, because in the government, especially you get a very finite period. There's a finite period means only 5 years you get for the chief minister to, to get the results, so in that finite results, so they also wanted to take what steps they can take, to see one immediate problems, okay, maybe guarantees can be immediate things that actually one can achieve. Other is that what systemic problems, can be addressed. For example, mission, like space mission is a long-term thing. It's a government's visionary kind of an ideas. Like you might be aware, one of the things, I'll end this one. You might have read this book called Mariano Mazzucato, one book called Mission Economy. It's a very beautiful book about the state, the capacity of the state. In fact, what all we are seeing today, the iPhone to everything, has come from that Mission Moon project. John F. Kennedy started this one, we wanted to send man to the moon. That's it. And so many technologies have come. But it was done by the state. So state, that is the state means the government, has the immense capacity to really do things completely differently. So that's where I see, and I think there is a way to, we need to understand that when there is a need for actually working a very, especially the building a lot of political leadership is a very, very important, I would say, in fact, for in the long run for the country, because if you have a good political leadership, in fact, we can really bring a lot of, experimentation, I would say. In fact, I like Meghalaya, I would like to say, we get a lot of holding environment. You call holding environment to do experimentation. So when you can make experimentation, you also do a lot of innovative things. So I think that is a very important thing that we need to really bring in. So as a citizen, we need to always promote that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now it's open for questions to the panel, even though I have instructions to close. So, yes, sir. Well, who has the mic? So what I'm going to do is be very partial, take one from the middle, one from the left, and one from the right, and that's it. Yeah, please, go ahead, sir. Yeah, just come to the questions, sir, so that we don't lose out on the next panel.
See, in a recent book by Karthik Muralitharan on how to accelerate India's development, he has written that government responds only in two cases: when a disaster strikes and when there is a financial crisis. So in these two cases, government will listen more, and that time they're ready to collaborate. And we also prepared, the disaster manual for the government of Karnataka, and the Principal Secretary Revenue jokingly told us, we don't need a manual for disaster management because we are experts in that. Tell us how to manage in normal times. So, Vijayanand ji is a great inspiration for all of us. So thank you, sir. And I'm sure when we collaborate with government, we can do a great work, all of us.
Thank you. Thank you. On my left, at the back, I'm also going to look at the back. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I will not be able to take all questions.
Quick question. On issues which are very complex, right? I mean, you talked about climate change, I think air quality, water management. How do we build accountability or ownership in the communities that we are? Because it is different for a bureaucrat, different for a politician, different for citizens. What is your suggestions on that?
I'll take that. We'll take all questions and then we'll take the answers. Anybody, any woman who wants to speak? Yeah? Yeah, there. I'm sorry, I just had to step out.
Hello everyone, my name is Priyanka. I have two questions. One is about accountability within government. So governments, a lot of times I have seen working with governments that there is data, the question of data which sir also spoke about, that there is data available but it is not available in the format which is usable, or it is not sometimes reliable. And while planning for programs, that challenge persists. And there are, of course, measures being taken, but I want to understand from you all, based on your experience, how can we leverage the power of data and technology in governance? That is my first question. Second is around, like, sir, you spoke about defining problems. So there are programs in governments which are like in the continuum, in the law. I mean, you have a ICDS program running like over for decades. There are many successes, challenges, but a lot of times we face the problem of nutrition in our country, and we've still not been able to like identify what the real problem is. We are doing a supplementary nutrition program. There are, I wouldn't go into the details, but around defining the problem in governance across sectors. How do governments do that effectively? Is it through conducting diagnostic studies? Like, what should be done? That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. This side, last question. Yeah. And then we'll do a round.
Hi. There is a tendency that genuine failures in government is sometimes termed as corruption or scam. So are there institutional mechanisms which encourage risk-taking and protect the risk-taker?
Okay. Now, accountability, data, design issues, objectivity. Yeah. Sir, we'll start with you.
Now, on accountability, there is a movement. Of course, I can't blame citizens sitting here. Right to information is a fantastic potential, but it has to be used. And it says not just information in the way people understand. But I think even Meghalaya has now made a very interesting thing, that you publish data in a form which is understandable by the people. That is the objective of right to information, not ask and respond. So that moment will take care of the major issue, but it's now slowed down after the first 4 or 5 years. But that is a major potential. Then this so-called social audit. It may not result in finding of illegalities, but it will enhance your understanding of how a scheme is done. So these 2 points I wanted to make.
Sorry, ma'am.
No sub-questions.
I think you're talking about objective of a program, of a continuing program. Say, for example, that is the reason I said self-help group program. For example, this particular program, which I talked about at length, this 388 billion rupees program. So sometimes it is a pure cut and paste. When it is a cut and paste, what is the objective? What I should have done? I could have kept quiet like other people. When they shouted at me, I said, anyway, I am the fall guy. If I am fall guy, I will do it. Let me do what best I can do. So I saved it. I had an option of speaking, had an option of keeping quiet. So you as a manager have an option to choose. But one important thing is, for example, the microfinance program. Microfinance program is an access to, we should not talk more English, more things and confuse. When you are running a program, be very clear what you're doing. Can you make an improvement? Please do it. No one else, say for example, government will not stop NRLM program. But if the NRLM program is done very well, the MFI crisis would not happen. Constantly it happens because government is slack there. But what is that you're supposed to do? You do improvement. For example, as I told, FPO program is a program is about to fail. But that doesn't mean that FPOs are not good. Some of them are spectacular. Can you make it better? That is what you should do. So government has done a program for whatever reasons. Make it better is what each one of us should try. Point is that. Clarity of objective should be very important.
So I think your question about how to diagnose the problem, and for example, some complex problems you mentioned. Malnutrition is a complex problem in India still. I think all of you are aware, as per National Family Health Survey 5, which is NFHS 6 is also going to come, but as per NFHS 5, almost like 1/3 of our children in India are stunted. So that means 1/3 of our children in India are stunted means their cognitive capacity has already been compromised because of lack of nutrition. When they go to the schools, they will struggle, achieving the basic learning outcomes. So how to actually address this issue? Can we address this issue as a technical problem, all the time we see it's a technical problem, thinking that SNP, Supplementary Nutrition Program, will solve the problem. So states are doing that one, but there are so much you need to go deeper into it. In fact, what is happening, for example, we are making a program, but that might not be actually achieving the results what it's supposed to. It might be actually affecting a bit, but we might require to bring a lot of changes there. So for that, actually you require a lot of research, data, evidence you have to generate. And at the same time, that will be very helpful. For example, we are doing it in Meghalaya like that. We institute some, like, what is the root causes of these problems. So, public health researchers. Then the second thing, more importantly, you also require especially multidisciplinary approach. So to see address any problem, you require multidisciplinary teams. You should not see actually from one expert angle. If you see from gender angle, you will find different issues. Because the women, especially during the pregnancy, they don't take a proper diet and all that. And then there are some cultural practices would be there. For example, in Meghalaya, everyone eats like there are tea, after a meal. So obviously, tea actually consumption after the meal will reduce the absorption of iron. So obviously they're anemic. So a lot of things have to be, it's a multidisciplinary approach is required. That's what I wanted to say, is that it's not that like we should have a curious mind, to solve the problem, not just to implement the program. So what is the purpose of a program? How the program, the purpose is achieved. So if that idea is there, we can further, in fact, I'll share it with you. In fact, for Meghalaya, we wanted to bring a transformative development of the state. Like, we started this exercise in 2018. And then we actually, 2 months, we took leave to write a strategy, and then started implementing. Today, you require that kind of a, deep thinking and clarity what needs to be done. I wanted to tell you, like, we got Creative Bureaucracy Festival. You heard of this one, anyone? Creative Bureaucracy Festival. It's done in Germany once a year. And this year, actually, we are the jury favorite, Meghalaya, the work that what we did. So it's like, I'm just saying, you require a different kind of an approach to do these things.
Yes.
Multidisciplinary should include a community-based thing, being the prime mover and prime stakeholder. Then better results can be achieved.
Yeah.
I'll just touch the point which he asked, like, if I'm not wrong, how complex issues like climate change are brought to the community participation. Since I have the experience in this sector, just to how we approached, I'm not telling a general solution. We didn't take like complex problems to the community, like whether they understand or not. We just started digging in from the another side, how they look things, what's happening around them. We did an internal survey for the community, whether they're able to understand climate change or not. So to our surprise, 80% of the community in Meghalaya is like a paradox. We are the wettest state in the world, but during lean season, we face water issues. So 80% of our community is able to relate that because of things happening around them, one, land use changes, shifting cultivation, mining, their water accessibility is changing. So, but at the same time, my experience, since I'm working in 3 projects only related to community, I can say it's very frustrating initially because it takes lot of efforts just in one of my projects just to convince community that their own cultural heritage is important. We took more than 300 meetings with community just to bring them on board. It's a very highly intensive exercise. Time, it takes a lot of time, financial resources also. But there is one point threshold where you have to break that. Once it is done, then it's like a smooth ride. But again, the challenge is for every effort you have to do this. Do you have that patience? So that's what the difference is going to make. At one project you made it successful, you cannot assume everything else will go. No, this is like every time you have to keep doing. I think this is what we are trying to do. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. If I don't let her ask the question.
Sorry, just one question to Mr. Darshan Patanaya. So, you mentioned that you won in 2023, and then there was a loss in 2018 as an for the elections. So how do you respond to criticism and loss as a politician, and then how do you address any of the shortcomings within that period? if anything you can share.
So that will be the last question. Suryakumarji wants to say something and then we'll come to you.
Since we have been talking about failure since yesterday, I think I just wanted to say this. I think while it is very nice to say I learn from the failure, if there is a bigger failure, there is something called as a long tail effect. That means something is dead, the tail still lingers. The tail is what? The bad experience. When people lose faith based on a dead program, it is a very, very damaging thing. So government doesn't allow that to happen. Government does its own best. Each one of you also should not allow long tail effect to happen to whatever you do. That is a request I wanted to make.
I think I should have started my talk with your answer to your question. Is because I think the resilience to failure, right? I think when I ran for office in 2018, I was new. I didn't know a lot of things. I jumped right in, and I did come second. So that was a very motivating factor for me to stay back and be alive. Say that I can come back and redo this again. A lot of criticism, obviously, but at the same time, getting through, like, this conference is a great example that I'm glad that the failures are actually being celebrated by the way of kind of giving us a space to openly talk about it. A lot of that, we had to go back. In my case, we actually started doing some surveys in terms of why we actually lost. Immediately, it took about 6 months, and said, let's actually go visit and understand why we failed. Since again, going back to the text, I wanted to understand data. I wanted numbers, like, okay, what is like the analytics side of it, right? Like how many people did not vote and why and what region, and we start diving in deeper. And then, we were able to stay afloat, because I think I'm sure everybody's wondering why I'm wearing this green thing on my shoulder, right? This is part of, like, I'm part of the farmers' rights activist movement. So that's why I wear this as a mark of that. And because we were able to stay alive and be relevant in the activism space, people really gave me another opportunity to say, we started addressing those, and the criticism actually died down after a bit, and said, okay, he's a keeper. So essentially, they trusted my work in that 5 years after, and then eventually elected me. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. It's written there in the book.
Thank you so much. I am sorry. I thought we did. Can you please repeat?
No. Actually, certain programs are advertised as ventures, like modern. Then there you can take any risk. Some new program, new budget and all that. Then another risk-taking possibility when a new government takes over. They announce, and they are willing to take risk. But you have to tell the political leader, these are the risks. You shouldn't hide risks. If you tell them and brief them on the increasing or reducing risks, nothing will happen. If you hide everything, at the end of it, the politician gets a bad name, then you are first.
Thank you so much. It was a great session. Thank you.